I think mostly because the female mind runs in wires. It's like one whole, everything is connected to everything. And so when something happens that is similar, it's a trigger, it works as a trigger. And therefore they will remember that, oh, last time we fought about you not putting me first, and this time it's also something similar. So are you just combining the situations to make them the same thing? Yeah, I would say that's the difference, because men think in boxes. They tend to compartmentalize a lot of situations. Women don't do that. So if I was mad about you not putting away the plates, and then tomorrow you don't put away the spoon, to me you're doing the same thing over and over. To you it's different because it's a different utensil. So yeah, I don't think women forgive. I personally don't forgive and forget. I would say I forgive. I'm not so sure on the forget part.
To be honest, actually, women don't forgive and forget. I'll use an example, a very funny one. Ni kama elephant. Elephant akipita hapa, today, 2025, the next 10 years ama 25 years, he or she, the elephant, will still remember the same path. Enye alipitia. Naona, natakumbuka whatever the markings were there. So ladies, naona nimesummarize in a nutshell whatever story I was to say. As men, we may forgive and forget, and even if we remember the scenarios, ama the episodes, okay, ilishafanyika, so we have to move on. But wanawake, noma. Yeah. They tend to carry things seriously, hata kama ni kitu yenye you need to kick. Naona, okay, nilishafanya ama ilishafanyika, sorry, we move on. Them watashikilia. Even things that you're not supposed even to hold on to. Ndio maana unaona, there's the bile, majority, wako na so much bile.
Women do forgive and forget, but naona ni kama ina depend na ile kitu yenye ulimfanyia. Unaweza pata times kuna ile kitu unafanyia mtu lenye unambreak ile heart yake ile na ndani. Na kuna zile vitu zenye mtu unaweza fanya yenye mtu anaona hii ni kitu ndogo sana, hii maybe ilikuwa mistake. Akufanya akitaka, unaona. So depending on your mistake, women do forgive and forget.
For me inategemea ni nani ambaye ana deal na hiyo issue na ni situation gani. Kwa sababu kuna wale ambao inategemea amefanywa nini. Kuna kitu unaweza samehe ukasema nimesamehe, lakini katika roho yako bado umeweka. Huwezi lipiza kisasi, lakini umemsamehe tu, lakini hutaki mambo yake. Na kuna inategemea pia, kuna kitu mtu anaweza kufanya ikawa umebaki hauwezi kumsamehe. So inategemea, lakini wanawake ni ngumu kimimi. Nasema ni ngumu. Mwanaume anaweza samehe na akasema maisha, lakini mwanamke akishasema mimi nimemove on na inabaki kwa hivyo.
Personally, from my own opinion, women they forgive but they don't forget. Because whenever you see that person, you'll always remember the same thing the person did to you. But the forgiving part, yes, you'll forgive, but we never forget.
Me, I feel like females hold the grudge. So, of course, I'll act like nimekuforgive so that I can get my revenge later.
Mi naona kama wana pile vitu mingi. So like, if I wrong her once, she may forgive and forget. But so many wrongs and a pile up, alafu she end up not forgive.
Personally, I'd say I'd literally forgive a person if you do me wrong, but I won't forget. Yeah, because what if you did it intentionally? Should I be forgetting what you did intentionally? So no, it will be hard for me to forget.
I personally would say forgive but don't forget, because when you forget, you might be giving them the platform to do it again. And when they do it again, would you still forgive them the same way and forget again? Then it will become a cycle over and over again. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what you have just been watching was just getting us into the conversation that we will be having this very moment. This is a family check right here on Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Degwa, and we have a very interesting topic, as you can see on your screens. The question is, do women forgive and forget? That is the big question. When you're wronged as a woman, is it easy for you to forget? And when you forget, is it also easy for you to forgive rather? Is it easy for you to forgive? And once you forgive, is it easy for you to forget? That is what we will be touching on here today. I'm excited for this conversation, and I am joined with me I will begin with the gentleman. I'm breaking the code of women first. Let me begin with a gentleman, and we have Duncan Juma, who is a life coach. Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Good morning, everyone.
And then we have Njeri Ndaru. Njeri Ndaru is a counseling psychologist and a growth coach. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Vivian.
Let us begin with you, Njeri. Since, you know, as you're a woman, just as I am, do women forgive and forget?
I'd say yes and no. Yes, because some do, and no, some don't. And when you talk about forgiveness, the first thing that we need to know is that for a woman, every action is tied to an emotion. So depending on how they feel about that particular action that has made them feel in that particular way, it will now determine how they will forgive if they are ready to do that, and how they will forget if also they are ready to do that.
So you're saying it's yes, no.
Yes.
It depends with the individual. Severity of the offense and also the individual.
Yes.
All right. What about you, Duncan? What's your take on this?
Well, I'm not a woman, but what I've heard is that women come on earth with a lot of extra RAM, sort of space to store things, and that's why forgiveness becomes harder. They can forgive, but forgetting becomes the exam that then they have to go through. And as Njeri rightly said, by and large, women's emotions are well developed from a younger age. You will hear a father telling the girl, "You're my angel, you're my little sweetheart." Rarely will you hear that from a man. So most times from men, only anger grows to maturity, which is a false sort of emotion, because it's almost like it's triggered by many other things. But for women, by and large, the emotions are well developed. And because of that, it's very easy to hurt them because their feelings play into it. And hence now how difficult it is then for them not just to forgive, but forget. And when you think about the quality of forgiving, again, it's lending itself to whether you need to forget or not.
Yeah. Well, you know, I want to hear this from you, Duncan. Would you say it's the opposite with men, or what's your take when it comes to men in this same thing? Do you think women forgive much easier than men, or the opposite?
No, I mean, men forgive much easier than women.
Oh, really?
In my take. It's just that there are certain cardinal sins that if you commit to a man, he's then not going to forgive you. And it is well documented. It's in the public domain that, you know, there are things men really might never come back from, especially if you committed to them. But if you think about the amount of grievances against men, men by and large are easy to forgive and forget. But also because of what really primes a man's, let's say what focus a man puts into life. A lot of times it's the economies. You know, am I able to feed my family? Am I able to take care of my family? Because then someone might encroach. Once that is sorted, there is a way in which they want to feel appreciated and all that. So it is a lot easier for a man to forgive to a certain degree. But there are very cardinal sins. If you commit to a man, he's not going to forgive you.
E.g.?
Well, if you go out of the marital space as a woman, there's a higher chance because of how many interpret that. Then you're saying, I'm not good enough. Then you're saying, I'm not good. There was a reason why you left me and went to someone else. So because of that, rarely, even if a man forgets, rarely will he heal or come back from that. And because of that, it takes a lot more energy maybe only God can help in that space for a man to then come and say, I've forgiven you and let's move on. But we're not saying it's not possible, we're just saying it's close to impossible.
All right.
Yeah.
Jerry, when Duncan mentioned that he feels like men forgive much easier than women, do you give a smile? I don't know if it was a smile or a smirk. So just give us your opinion on that. Do you feel women forgive much easier than men, or men forgive much easier than women?
Men forgive much easier because, as I said earlier, for women it's attached to emotions. But for a man it's just an action. And you find that in our society, most of the things that hurt a woman will not hurt a man. So you find that even if you were to do something, unless it is very extreme to a man, as Duncan has said, then that is where now the problem will be. But a man will easily forgive and forget. But a woman will not forget easily, because remember, the emotion is tied to the action. Yeah.
What does forgiving and forgetting look like?
So when we talk about forgiving, it is literally letting go that emotion. And it looks different to different people, because remember, when we talk about emotions, it comes with emotional intelligence. So when someone is more emotional intelligent, they are more likely to forgive, let go the emotion, the hurt that came with that action. So you'll find them also letting go. But also the reason why I, as a psychologist, I don't recommend forgetting is because there is a lesson learned from that emotion. Let's say, for example, you're in a relationship and this person, let's say, like the example that Duncan has used, has gone out of the marital bed. You know, that feeling of, am I not enough? Is this person not getting, you know, what they want from this relationship, this marriage? So the lady will not feel that you went out, you know, you have gone out of the marital space. They will feel, why am I not enough to this person? Now, when we talk about forgetting, they will not forget that you did that, but you'll find them moving from that emotion of maybe resenting you, having heartaches, crying, and all that. But it comes with time for different people. You might find some people will heal very fast, others will take a lot of time. Yeah.
All right, and maybe just to still pick up on that, Duncan, do you feel like that even when women forgive and they say, I've forgotten about it, I've forgiven you, you've done this offense, you've wronged me in this way, I have forgiven you, and I've chosen to forget about it, you know, it will come back sometime. It will be picked up, it will be put somewhere, and then it will be picked up in a later argument.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah, many times, even when you argue with your significant other, a lot of times you might even think as a man, you know, this is done and over, it's gone. Only 15 years later, you realize he's just been like a crocodile waiting for the right moment to pounce
15
back.
years.
You know, I'm just giving a range. Like it never gets away, you know, it never forgets. And I think, to just reiterate what Jerry's mentioning, I think forgiveness takes, or forgiving takes on three aspects. There's that part where I say, I'm forgiving you, but let's set boundaries on what you did. Yeah, so that we agree you're not going to go outside these boundaries. There is then, I forgive you, and I'm giving you back my trust. I'm not going to hold it against you. Yeah. There's also that part where I say, I forgive you, but you know what? I can't be here. I'm letting you go. I'm walking away. And those could be aspects. But I recommend forgetting, and like what Jerry is saying, that she recommends not to forget. Many times you find that then women get to bleed on people who didn't hurt them, because then they didn't forget. They come with that extra, for lack of a better word, extra baggage. But in the sense that because they didn't forget, sort of they punish the wrong person, you know. And there are many men who find themselves being beaten left, right, and center. And if they do the root cause analysis, they realize their high school sweetheart hurt her, now she's punishing a gentleman who was just quietly minding their own business. And so I recommend, and essentially, I think there's, I don't know whether it's a politician, maybe Nelson Mandela, maybe a trusted politician who once said that forgiving and not forgetting is almost like taking poison and expecting your enemy to die. And I think I recommend that in the healing journey, you find spaces. I don't know how easy that will be. I'm not a woman. I'm not going to pretend that I know how that will look like. But I recommend that. I feel like it's healthier and better in terms of just then forgiving and letting go and trying to forget. And the word there is trying, which is the operative word I'm using, because it's not easy to forget.
Yeah. Well, you know, Jerry, I want to just speak on, you know, what Dan has said. And he's spoken about, you know, you not forgetting, you forgiving but not forgetting, or you not forgiving and still not forgetting, may cause some ripple effect on people who didn't really, you know, who didn't take part in you getting hurt. You know, as he put it, you're bleeding on someone who didn't even, you know, have play any part in you getting that cut. You know, so maybe just what role exactly does past traumas play, you know, in all of this, you know, coming, you know, as a counseling psychologist, maybe you can just, you know, look at it in that perspective of trauma, past traumas. What role does it have to play in this?
You know, when you find someone bleeding their past hurt to another person, it is because they have not healed completely. Because, as I had said earlier, letting go of the emotion, letting go of the hurt. You don't have necessarily to forget, because there are some lessons that you will learn. You know, what are the things I have to look out for to avoid being hurt like previously? Maybe what did I miss on my part while having this friendship or this relationship? And what can I do better? Because when we talk about therapy and healing and counseling from trauma, it is not about the other person, it is about you. So what can you do better? What can you look at in other friendships, in other relationships, so that you don't make the mistake from the previous relationship? And you find that most of the time as ladies, we tend to move on very fast, for lack of a better word, because we are very social, we are very vocal. Therefore, we find the next person or the next friend to talk about the previous hurt, the hurt that we've had. And sometimes, because we find solace in this friendship or in this relationship, we try to sweep feelings under the carpet now, because you have found this comfort, you have found, you know, this safe space. You forget to deal with the past trauma, with the past feelings, because you have already found solace here. So by the time, you know, you start seeing this person wants to do like the previous person did, then you start flaring up, you start reacting, not remembering that this is a unique person. They also act independently, not like the other person. So you start now reacting to this person. They might not necessarily be doing the exact things the other person did, but, you know, as people, we have that defense mechanism. We either fight or we flight, we run away. So now you start fighting the battle that is not even there, and this other person is totally innocent. And you find that because also you have found this solace, you are likely not to communicate your needs and your expectations to this person, whether in a relationship, whether in a friendship. So because most of the time you find that ladies come into common ground for relationships, especially romantic, because of hurt. You know, you have found this person that was hurt, both of you are healing, you have that connection, that spark. So you will start on a ground of healing and finding this common ground, but you will not necessarily now talk about how both of you are having boundaries and setting boundaries and what your expectations are from each other. Yeah.
So what's the best way to go about you not bleeding on people who didn't hurt you?
Heal totally.
Heal totally.
Yes.
Just heal.
Yes, just heal.
Does healing equal to forgetting?
Not really, because as I said earlier, it depends with an individual. And you find that most of the time when you are completely healed, you will forget. Because when we talk about forgiving, let me give an example of tomatoes. It is like, you know, buying ripe tomatoes in the market. When you forget to take them out of the bag and, you know, you come back to town with the same bag for a whole week, they will start smelling. So you letting that hurt go with time is like discarding those tomatoes. You know, even if you wash the bag, there will be that smell, but as time goes by, the smell will go away. And when you heal now completely, in the aspect of that smell, you find yourself forgetting, you know, because it is about you, not the other person. Of course, there is that struggle of trying to let go. You know, this person did this to me. I am very disappointed. As some ladies say, men are dogs, which I believe should not be the case. Yeah. But with time, you'll find just forgetting and being out there in a space where you are giving everybody a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got to speak to people, some people in the streets, just to get to have their feel on this, and I would love for you to maybe respond to some of them. But before we get to listen in on that, maybe what does it take for one to forget? Just from your point of view, what do you feel is the best way to go about forgetting after you forgive someone?
Well, I think, we're not entirely saying you should forget, but I think there must be steps that allow you to start forgetting, or to start, you know, sort of putting it not in the front burner, so to say. Data on the street, for example, there are scenarios where, for example, you leave your husband because he went outside the home.
Yeah, that's cheating.
And, let's call it
or
that.
Infidelity.
Okay? Yeah. Infidelity. And then you realize maybe in your o'clock, maybe you may not get a younger person, or, you know, then later on you're having an affair with another married man. So the question is, would it have been easier to try and work it out? And especially where maybe if you have an issue with your man and the man is available or present to be beaten, and then he's able to say, you know what, maybe we can forge forward. Those could be opportunities that we may not want to overlook, so that our healing is wholesome, especially when you're dealing with the person who hurt you. However, we know that it's not easy to forgive and then forget in the context that maybe there's unrepentance, there's, you know, because really part of being forgiven totally sometimes has to do with you being stripped, especially if it's now, you're talking about a lady talking to a man. The man has to nyenyekea, you know, has to really be beaten down to pulp before the forgiveness is ushered to them. And sometimes from a man's perspective, maybe power games may not allow. You know, you ask yourself, if I finally submit myself to the lowest of levels because I now want to be forgiven, what does that mean for me? Will I still be a man after this conversation? And I think those are spaces that then must allow women to start saying, you know what, maybe if I forgive, I can also start my journey to forget. And not in the sense of you're not saying it didn't happen, but you're also saying that you're not allowing it to be on your front burner, you know, because there are people you meet and day one, you can tell they're going through so much. Then you realize this happened 5 years ago, 15 years ago, because it's still very present. Of course, from Jerry's perspective, maybe it's unprocessed, you know, there's that denial phase that could come with it, or maybe depression that has kicked in because of betrayal that came with it. But at the same time, there has to be that part of acceptance that where you say, you know what, it happened. And then the other thing is, part of why we need to forgive and forget, part of it is because we're not getting married to angels, we're not getting into a relationship with angels. These guys have the potential to be used by the devil or anyone, any other thing. And because of that, if they are willing to come back, I mean, even when you think about it,
it's giving the shetani.
Yeah. And many men tell the truth that in shetani wafanya hiyo kitu. And yeah, actually I believe, and maybe Jerry will correct me, there's a Bible verse that says, pray for those who persecute you. And I think largely I feel like it was written for women, but also when they say, do not keep a multitude of sin, do not keep a record of sin. I think also it was directed in the journey to try and allow us to forgive as many times as it is, but as long as there's willingness to change and there's those corrective attitude adjustments that say, I'm going to be different, or I'm going to behave differently, or this is how I'll play around.
Jerry, your take on that?
I lack words to to comment on that, but what I can say is that for you to be forgiven, you have to take initiative. And I'm speaking this from a woman perspective. You know, women don't expect you to say that, you know, it will never be repeated again. Actually, we don't want to hear words. We want to see actions. And what do you do after hurting maybe your sister, your girlfriend, your wife, what are the steps you take towards helping her heal? Because that is your responsibility as the person that has hurt her. Or if you want now to work on that particular thing that has caused her hurt, because you find that men are like tumeongelelea hii kitu imeisha, but for a lady it is not that simple. A lady takes time to process things, and you'll find her bringing it again and again and again, even maybe after a year. That shows that she has not healed completely from it. Therefore, you have to get back to the table, listen to her, understand her, not only hearing and saying naongeanga tu mingi na hii maneno tulimaliza. Get to understand her point of view and now work towards that. You can also ask the question, what can I do to help you or help us move from this kind of situation?
Now, for those who keep repeating the same mistake, I've forgiven you this time, and then next time you still do this very same thing. It's like a repeated thing. It's a repeated, let me call it offense, over and over. I forgive you. After a while, then you get back to doing the same thing. Now, where to go from there?
I think let me use science. They say nature abhors a vacuum. Usually there could be motivations as to why this person did X, Y, and Z. And I'm not standing in their space to say they should continue doing that. But I think it's about, if you talk about, and Njeri has alluded to it, there has to be a change that fills into this gap. But also, Njeri has hinted to a fact that, when it keeps being brought up again and again to denote that healing has not taken place, sometimes it's for a man, there's a part where you actually get tired of hearing the same, and you can actually zone off because then you don't know what to do. Because many times men don't know what to do with the emotions of women. Like it's not very easy, and maybe training needs to happen. But if someone keeps doing again and again, maybe that just could be God telling you, let my people go.
Like, take your leave now. Your take on the same for someone who just keeps forgiving, or maybe let me ask you the question being, when is it now worth you not forgiving and forgetting? When is it worth you just saying, okay, now this is it, I'll take my leave. Maybe I'll forgive, but I forgive you, but I'm not here no more.
That depends with each person individually, because you have to get to that space where you know what is the limit for you as a person. Even if there is that forgiving and forgetting and trying to work things out, you have to get to that place where you just for the sake of your mental health and peace of mind, you say that I have to let this go. And as much as you'd want to help the other person, if it is draining you, especially emotionally and mentally, then I'd say leave. That is from a professional perspective, because sometimes you just have to let the other person work themselves out and find healing. Because sometimes you find, especially if someone has, experienced trauma growing up and from previous relationships, they will tend not to let go and not to understand the other person's perspective. So you just taking time and taking the back burner and letting that person first sort themselves out. If you are ready to continue working on both of you, then let that person first heal and give them space to be themselves and to heal.
Okay. I think now it's time for us to get to listen into some of the perspectives that people got to, that we got from people in the streets concerning the same. If you can just listen to some of them and then you get to respond to them.
Mostly because the female mind runs in wires. It's like one whole, everything is connected to everything. And so when something happens that is similar, it's a trigger, it works as a trigger. And therefore, they will remember that, oh, last time we fought about you not putting me first, and this time it's also something similar. So are you just combining the situations to make them the same thing? Yeah, I would say that's the difference, because men think in boxes. They tend to compartmentalize a lot of situations. Women don't do that. So if I was mad about you not putting away the plates, and then tomorrow you don't put away the spoon, to me, you're doing the same thing over and over. To you, it's different because it's a different utensil. So, yeah, I don't think women forgive. I personally don't forgive and forget. I would say I forgive. I'm not so sure on the forget part.
To be honest, actually, women don't forgive and forget. I'll use an example, a very funny one. Ni kama elephant. Elephant akipita hapa, today, 2025, the next 10 years ama 25 years, he or she, the elephant, will still remember the same path. Enye alipitia. Unaona, na atakumbuka whatever the markings were there. So ladies, unaona nimesummarize in a nutshell whatever story I was to say. As men, we may forgive and forget, and even if we remember the scenarios ama the episodes, okay, ilishafanyika, so we have to move on. But wanawake, noma. Yeah. They tend to carry things seriously, hata kama ni kitu yenye you need to kick. Naona, okay, tunilishafanya ama ilishafanyika, sorry, we move on. Them watashikilia, even things that you're not supposed even to hold on to. Ndio maana unaona, there's the bile, majority, wako na so much bile.
Women do forgive and forget, but naona ni kama ina depend na ile kitu yenye ulimfanyia. Juu unaweza pata times kuna ile kitu unafanyia mtu yenye unambreak ile hati yake ile na ndani. Na kuna zile vitu zenye mtu unaweza fanya yenye mtu anaona hii ni kitu ndogo sana, hii maybe ilikuwa mistake. Hakufanya akitaka, unaona. So depending on your mistake, women do forgive and forget.
For me inategemea ni nani ambaye ana deal na hiyo issue na ni situation gani. Kwa sababu kuna wale ambao inategemea amefanywa nini. Kuna kitu unaweza samehe ukasema nimesamehe, lakini katika roho yako bado umeweka. Huwezi lipiza kisasi, lakini umemsamehe tu, lakini hutaki mambo yake. Na kuna inategemea pia, kuna kitu mtu anaweza kufanya ikawa umebaki hauwezi kumsamehe. So inategemea, lakini wanawake ni ngumu kimimi. Nasema ni ngumu. Mwanaume anaweza samehe na akasema maisha, lakini mwanamke akishasema mimi nimemove on na inabaki kwa hivyo.
Personally, from my own opinion, women they forgive but they don't forget. Because whenever you see that person, you'll always remember the same thing the person did to you. But the forgiving part, yes, you'll forgive, but we never forget.
Me, I feel like females hold the grudge. So, of course, I'll act like nimekuforgive so that I can get my revenge later.
Mi naona kama wana pile vitu mingi. So like, if I wrong her once, she may forgive and forget. But so many wrongs and a pile up, alafu she end up not forgive.
Personally, I'd say I'd literally forgive a person if you do me wrong, but I won't forget. Yeah. Because what if you did it intentionally? Should I be forgetting what you did intentionally? So no, it will be hard for me to forget.
I personally would say forgive but don't forget, because when you forget, you might be giving them the platform to do it again. And when they do it again, would you still forgive them the same way and forget again? Then it will become a cycle over and over again. Yeah.
Hi, now judging from the statements that we've just gotten to hear from some of the people that we got to speak to, it's like so evident that most of them are agreeing with women do not forgive and forget. You know, I think it was only one or two people who said, yes, a woman can forgive and forget. Most of them are saying, yeah, I'll forgive but not forget. There's the gentleman who actually compared women to elephants, you know, that if ilipita hapa leo, 10 years later it will still remember. So it's the same case with women. But now there's one that I'd love you to maybe comment on, and you can also just comment on whichever that you feel you want to touch on. There's the lady who said, I will forgive, yes, but I will stay there waiting for for the best time for me to also revenge.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's fine. You know, I think there has to be a conversation slightly beyond forgive and forget to what damage not forgiving and forgetting does to a person. And when you look at the level of bitterness and all that, especially when we live in a world where right now everyone is focused on putting food on the table and all that. So we may not be in a space where we are attending to the psychological issues that are happening in our space. And I think Jerry will attest to this, that there are many more cases, even children coming maybe for counseling, and you just notice it's because the parents are not actively available because they are busy. And so while we can say it's okay to wait for that revenge, the question would be, what are you, it's almost like you're building bile block by block, and it's eating you up. There's an effect on yourself that this is doing, and your outlook to life. Because it's almost like you've picked a world view that, you know what, he's done this for me, I must wait for them at some point and clobber them. The reality of it is, the deeper your friendships, the bigger the size of the betrayal that it will be. And because of that, there has to be need also for capacity to build in anticipating that the person I live with or the person in my life have the ability to betray me. And so you preempt and prepare so that when it happens, maybe you get hurt, but not as hurtful as it. But when you now say, tit for tat, let me wait for my sweet revenge, you never know, maybe the sweet revenge might actually backfire on you. Or you will notice that maybe he will hurt you some more. Are you going to keep preparing for it? So it's not a very clear-cut answer, but I feel like it's taking a posture that almost you're self-cutting yourself with the view that the other person, think of it this way, many times if you leave someone in a relationship, there's like a feeling in you that that person should suffer in life, things, bad things, and do this should knock them over, Then you realize God has blessed them, they're actually doing well, looks like you are the obstacle, so what happens to you? So I think we must be in a space where to say also, you know what, part of the cards is not saying, I'll wait for my sweet revenge, but more importantly, to let go from my own part and say, you know what, it's happened, and perhaps I give them a chance to be the best version of themselves without necessarily saying I have to pay back. Because really, how much damage is payback enough to heal you or bring sanity or normalcy to your end?
Yeah, and actually, just from you saying that sometimes after you leave someone who's hurt you, you expect the worst to happen to them. And, the people who have had this time and again that life is not a Nigerian movie and God is not from your village. So just move on, stop waiting for karma. Jerry, what's your take on that bit of revenging, whereby you've forgiven this person, you've chosen to, we're speaking about a romantic relationship, you've forgiven them, you've chosen to remain in the relationship, but you're just there because you're waiting for time for you to revenge?
I'd say it starts with self-love. If you love yourself, you would not stay in a place where you'll continue getting hurt. And we have been hurt so much that we want to continue to stay in hurt without realizing that at the end of it, us who will continue being hurt. And sometimes you find that you might be wanting to revenge, yet it was maybe a one-time thing. Let's say, for example, someone, let's say a man you're in a relationship with, flirted with a lady in your presence. And it's not his character to do that. It was that one particular time. And you're now planning on how to revenge. And maybe the person later on realized that I did wrong to my lady, so he apologized, and you're like, okay, and you are planning revenge. And literally this person has already seen their mistake and has worked on that. And you find that sometimes you lose a good person because of that. And also, for how long are you willing to wait to continue, staying and putting that toxicity inside you? Because when we talk about emotions, it not only affects our mind, it also affects our body. That's why you find some people in toxic relationships will have ulcers, high blood pressure, because of, piling up things. And you'll go to hospital and the doctor will tell you, punguza stress. So how much are you willing, how far are you willing to go? And also there's the lady that talked about spoons and cups, after your man has had a meal, anaziacha tu hapo. They are the basics of relationships when you talk. what do I do or what am I supposed to do? And I'd speak about men. Men, I don't know why they don't get it. Because when your lady tells you respectfully, tukikula, tunapeleka vyombo hapa ama tufanye hivi, you know, it's about you too, not about what people say out there. And remember, if this person is really someone that you want to build your future with, then you have now to make those rules work for the both of you. And also, there's a lady that said, I don't know whether it is a lady that said, it depends on what the other person does. Yes, it depends with the person. And you'll find that ladies will forgive very easily the first times, but when you consecutively repeat that mistake, now that is where the problem comes in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to end this conversation. It was such a good conversation, and I'll just allow you to give your last remarks in very few words.
Yeah, I think we have talked about forgiving and forgetting, and I think it's in our own interest to not just forgive and forget, but to learn from whatever experiences we go through and realize that many times when we don't forgive, it is on our end. There's only what we have control over, and sometimes the other person we don't have much control over. And it's our wish that then they will come to our world and be able to see what we are seeing. But even when they don't, when you prioritize yourself, a healthy you, a whole you is more beneficial to not only the two of you, but also to the society at large.
All right, thank you.
To the ladies, I would say love yourself. It does not matter the past that you have been, but love yourself, because a lady is a nurturer. Whether it's to your children, to your parents, to the people around you at your workplace, a lady is a nurturer. And I'm not putting pressure on you, but you really need to work on yourself, because we are raising sons and boys, we are mentoring boys, and they need to learn from us as much as they are learning from the men. Also, seek help when you need it. Whenever you have that thought of, ama niende kwa psychologist, or I can go for therapy, I can go for counseling. Do that, because it is your body telling you that you need to. And in reference to that, I offer my services both virtually and in person. Especially if you're in Nairobi, there is no excuse of you not seeking help, because we are available in CBD, Ngong Road and Mombasa Road. So take time to love yourself. And loving yourself does not mean, especially now in Valentine's season, you know, buying yourself flowers and getting chocolate from your boyfriend or husband. Going for therapy is also a form of self-love. Yeah.
All right, okay. There's a message that has come in, but we need to finish. Maybe just to read it. Do men really learn from past mistakes? Or we can have that as our next conversation.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah?
But the short answer is yes, we do.
Okay.
Just how we apply the lessons.
All right, we can have that as our next conversation. Thank you so much to every one of you who has been tuned in to Good Morning Kenya. That was an interesting conversation. And remember, it does not need to end here. You can continue this conversation on our social media platforms, and you can find us. Our handle is at KBC Channel 1, or you can find me at my personal handles. That is at Vivian Ndegwa. Thank you so much for staying with us. We do this again tomorrow, same time and place, God willing. Goodbye.